Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about multiple upcoming cooldowns over the next 10 days. Now, before we get into the video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think any of these Arctic blasts will be very major over the next 2 weeks that we have left of November? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and first things first, we're taking a look at approximately last night as far as the temperature anomalies, and as you can see, we're already in another cooldown. We had a very brief warm-up that lasted a couple of days maximum, but now we're headed back into a cold pattern, or we're already in a cold pattern. Those greens are very potent cold air masses there. You can see 10 to 15 degrees below normal approximately, so we are in a very potent cool down already. Again, you can see out west things are warmer than normal for a vast majority of the western half of the country, and that is a positive PNA. That is what is encouraging this cold air to head eastward, and that's exactly what we're seeing happen before our eyes. Even by Monday, tomorrow, November 15th, we will still be in a major cool down with those greens around for Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, especially the Appalachian Mountains. They are very, very cold compared to normal and still very warm compared to normal out west. So we're still in this very potent and very rigid positive PNA pattern that allows for that warmer air to take place out west and encourages the colder air to take place in the east. Now, by the time we reach Tuesday, November 16th, this short-lived cooldown, again, following a short-lived warm-up, is going to be coming to an end. We still see some below normal temperatures for the northeastern corner of the country there, but we can see a warm-up rapidly making its way eastward. So we are going to be in a flip-flop pattern overall for the most part. We do see some colder air making its way to the northwest as well, and that's potentially that positive PNA coming to an end and heading towards a negative PNA briefly. And even by the time we reach about Wednesday, November 17th here, we can see warmer air is generally taking over for the eastern half of the country briefly here. We see out west some colder air making its way in. It's opportunistic. You see this warmer air head to the east, and we see that cold air fill into the west. Wherever that warm up is not located, that's where the cold air does tend to really go to. And even by the time we're reaching Thursday, the high temperatures of Thursday, November 18th, we see that cool down rapidly heading eastward again. We still see that warm up along the eastern seaboard. We still see some colder air for the northwest, but we see that warm air filling in for the southwest, likely going to head north after this point and really take over as a positive PNA. But we do see some colder air there for the central United States racing eastward. Not as potent this time around, but it still is the case by this frame. Now let's take a look at the high temperatures of Friday, November 19th. And as you can see, that cooldown has really filled in for the eastern United States. There are some greens showing up again, which again is about 10 to 15 degrees below normal. Any blue areas are going to be mostly 1 to 10 degrees below normal, which is still significant, especially in the darker blues. But the greens especially is that area where we're looking for far below normal temperatures to be setting up. Now, by the time we reach Saturday, and this is going to be November 20th, you can see that cooldown is still around for the eastern seaboard. But we do have a warm-up filling in for the central United States, and we have another cooldown starting up out west, and that is that negative PNA trying to make a comeback. So the PNA has really been what's flip-flopping the most, what's allowed for this pattern to be mostly a back-and-forth pattern without any consistent cold or warmth. I would say there is a majority cold here in the eastern United States throughout this period, but really it is fairly close, and it is an upgrade over what we were having in September and October. I don't want to downplay that because we were in a consistently warm pattern with zero cooldowns for almost 2 months straight. So to have at least a back and forth pattern, I think everybody's quite satisfied with that. At least the fall temperatures are here occasionally, but there is this warm up in between that allows for the more warm temperatures to set in. All right, now let's head towards Sunday, and this is going to be November 21st, the high temperatures, and out east, the warm temperatures are taking back over. We see more cold building in for the west as well, especially the northwest there, and that is what's really just eating up this cold in the east and encouraging a warmer pattern here for the east overall. This is going to be shortly lived, very, very shortly lived, on similar, just a similar trend to what we've had before this point as well, because by the time we reach about the high temperatures of Monday, November 22nd, you could see a very potent cool down is moving into the central United States by the afternoon hours of Monday, November 22nd. We still have very warm temperatures in the east, but that is, like I said, going to be very, very shortly lived, because take a look at, I would say this is the high temperatures of Tuesday, November 23rd. We see the greens widespread in the central United States and a lot of the eastern United States. It's racing eastward from this point as well. And we even see those blues within the greens, which is 15 to 30 degrees below normal, setting in for the central United States. So we do have the recipe in place for potentially a very, very potent cool down here in the eastern and central United States. We have to move on to our GFS model beyond this point to even look any further. So this is by time we're reaching the high temperatures of Wednesday, November 24th. And as you can see, this model trends at colder air setting up in the eastern half of the country. Very warm temperatures setting up in the west, which is, again, that positive P&A pattern, which 9 times out of 10 is going to have colder air in the east when you have this very warm air in the west. Since things move from west to east, we know this, obviously, cold fronts come from the west. Things are moving generally from the Pacific to the Atlantic over the United States. The west is what determines the weather in the east. So what we see happen in the west travels down the road and encourages things in the east. I hope this concept makes sense, but that's why we're not looking for what's happening in the east to change what happens in the west. We're looking what's happening in the west to change what happens in the east. So when you see this warm up in the west, you know it's going to be likely a cool down in the east down the road, like I said before. Now, here's Thursday, November 25th. Again, high temperatures. We still see the colder air in the east set up, the warmer air in the west, but things are cooling down for the west coast. And even by the time we reach Friday, November 26th, things are cooling down even further for the west coast. Things are warming up even further for the east coast. We see the transition starting in the west, traveling down the road to the east. Things are changing. Again, cooling down even further in the west by the time we're reaching Saturday, November 27th. We see things warming up even further for the central and eastern United States after that point. In this model, very long range is trending at a warm up around that time period, but things could always change. What we know in the short range is that there's going to be a cool down that we're ongoing right now. We're going through it right now. There's going to be a warm up afterwards, a very short warm up, very short cool down after that, and then it's just going to flip flop back and forth. So we're going to get a little bit of everything over the next week to 2 weeks, actually. Let's take a look at the teleconnections here. This is the driving force behind everything we're seeing going on. Here's the AO, first off, our Arctic oscillation. In its positive phase, we see less Arctic air make its way to the United States. In its negative phase, though, we do begin to see that colder air make its way eastward. And as you can see, we see it staying kind of neutral to positive over the next, I would say, 5 to 6 days. And then it tanks negative around the 20th all the way through the 25th, or maybe even beyond. And then it trends positive again. This means Arctic blasts will be possible, even more potent cooldowns during that time frame where we see that dip very far negative. So towards the end of November, we're going to be watching for that very, very closely. Here's that P&A, positive P&A, generally in the longer range, but we are in a negative trending P&A here for the next, I would say, 5 to 7 days, especially around the 16th and 17th, which is likely that time frame where we see the cool down in the west, warm up in the east. The further negative that P&A goes, the more influential it is over the pattern. But we can see that the trend is, as we head towards the beginning of December, things are going to be getting even more and more positive here on our P&A, which means colder and colder air for the west. Now our NAO, which kind of helps all of this kind of come together, this encourages in its negative phase colder air in the east, and its positive phase, it encourages warmer air in the east. As you can see, this is going to be positive over the next week or so, heading negative around the same time the AO heads negative. These usually correlate together, so that's not too surprising. And that also matches up with when the positive P&A is going to be in place. So those three things combined do lead me to believe long range through the next half of November, overall things should look colder in the east for the second half of November. For today's confidence tab, we're at a 5 out of 6. Things generally do point towards cold in the east, warm in the west overall for the next 2 weeks as we head towards the beginning of December, and I'm actually quite confident in that. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how many snowfall chances do you think we will have in the east overall for the month of November? And Will Hutton said, I think we'll have at most 3 chances, including the current one. And I think that's a good estimate. That's a fair estimate. And it is the month of November, so it isn't too common to have snowfall chances as it is. So 3 is actually a lot. But we're going to be in a colder pattern like I've touched on. So it's not looking too unlikely at this point either. Now, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons. Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Larry Pan, Mandy Birchfield, and Patrick Strickland as well. I'd also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalesa, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Cindy Klein, Alan Goodmaben, Bill Dallas, Gary, Sean Khaleesi, Dwight Phelan, Stephen Grenenthal, and Thomas DeBar as well. I'd also like to thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox also. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and as always, subscribe for more weather-related content. I will see you guys in the next video.